Hello everyone, I'm Robert Wenzel. Welcome to the third episode of Sunday Morning with Robert Wenzel. Today's topic, why Donald Trump never washed the windows at Trump Tower when he was back in New York City before he was president. Okay, now President Trump has tweeted out an awful lot about trade. He's tweeted out concern about trade deficits. He's tweeted out proudly that he has prevented plants from moving overseas, corporations moving plants overseas, and he has also tweeted out that he wants fair trade. So what I thought we'd look at is taking a look at what it might have been like at Trump Tower when he was back there as a businessman, and we applied what he wants to do for the country to him in New York City. So let's say, here we are at Trump Tower, which was located on 5th Avenue between 56th, 57th Street and bordered on the other side of the block by Madison Avenue. So we got 5th Avenue, Madison Avenue, 56th Street, 57th Street. And let's say we've got a block association and a president who has a block association president who has power, something like Donald Trump has power in the United States right now. So basically, let's say that Donald Trump had window washers that actually came from the Bronx or from the Queens or from Jersey and cleaned his windows. And the president of the block association said, hey, this is causing a trade deficit. Donald Trump is paying these guys and the money's going outside the block. We need to keep this money in the block. We need to only hire people in the block who are doing the window washing. Of course, the block is small and there really aren't a lot of residents there. But still, Donald Trump can go up and wash his own windows. So why didn't that it's a silly example because it points out the problem with attempting to block people from the outside from doing things for you. Donald Trump did not wash his own windows. And the reason is because of something called the law of comparative advantage. What the law of comparative advantage says is that regardless of how low quality the skills are of some person, he'll still have something to be able to do in the world. The reason is that someone like Donald Trump, who has great skills, as he tells us daily, as a negotiator, as a developer, and as a brander. So he's much better off spending his time working on deals, buying buildings, managing buildings, putting his brand on things, negotiating those things, than washing the windows. It's better off for him to hire somebody from the outside to do that, even though he might be the best window washer in the world. He's a tall guy, he's detail oriented, he's probably got a long reach. He would probably be able to wash windows faster, better than anybody he hires to do it. But still, he doesn't do it because of comparative advantage, because he's better off spending his time here and getting somebody else to come in and do the window washing for him. Now, if we look at this in terms of trade, what we see is that it's good that there are people outside doing certain kinds of work. The United States is a very, very creative country. We've got a lot of capital behind us. There's a lot of stuff we can do. It really doesn't make a lot of sense for us to be assembling different computer parts or making clothes. I might be a good assembler. Who knows? I've never tried it. Okay? But I'm much better off being a blogger and doing that and having somebody else in some other country assemble things. I prefer somebody else making the clothes than having my graphic designer working on clothes instead. What we do is we enrich ourselves when we focus on what we do best, and then we let other people do the stuff that they can handle and they can manage. If it's very, very labor intensive, but it requires just low quality labor to just stick and do stuff, to sew clothes, put clothes together. That's better off we're doing that somewhere else. We're great at software. We're great at designing iPhones. We're great at entertainment. We're actually great at producing oil. We're great at lots of things. But what that means is we should be focusing on that. And people that are willing to work for a lot less should be doing the stuff that gives us the freedom to be as creative as we are. So let them make the sneakers overseas. Let them make the garments overseas. Let them make steel overseas. Now, the next thing Donald Trump talks about is that he's going to prevent plants from leaving the United States. Again, this is limiting our ability to put our people where they're most creative and most powerful. If a company, if Ford or General Motors wants to put a plant overseas, an auto plant, that means the labor is cheaper there to do that. And it's much better off having those people there so the people in the United States are freed up to do other kinds of work. If there was no work for these people, they would compete wage-wise against the people overseas. The only reason they're not competing wage-wise with the people overseas is because they have better opportunities here to do other kinds of work. So it doesn't make any sense to prevent a plant from moving overseas. It's ridiculous when Donald Trump puts out a tweet and says, you know, I've prevented a plant from going overseas. If the numbers tell GM or Ford to put a plant overseas, that's telling them that it's too expensive to do it here in the United States, that there's other things bidding for the labor, the land, and all that sort of stuff. It's ridiculous to cheer on not allowing the plants to be set up at other spots. Finally, what he talks about is what he calls fair trade. And what he means by fair trade is that, quote unquote, other countries are dumping product here. Now, what does other countries dumping product here mean? What it generally means is that a country overseas is subsidizing some business, which doesn't make sense for the other country. But for us, it's great. If I buy this, if this was made overseas, and there's some country subsidizing the making of this, I get it cheaper. How is that not a benefit to me? If for some crazy reason the Queensboro president or Bronxboro president subsidize window washers, so it's cheaper for Trump to hire window washers there because half their salary is being paid by the people of Queens. It's terrible for the people of Queens, but it's certainly not a problem for Donald Trump. It's an advantage to Donald Trump. So the more we can bring in product, the better off it is. There's absolutely nothing wrong from the perspective of the United States for stuff to be coming in here cheaper. It gives us freedom to buy other things, to spend our time making other stuff. Now let's take as an example what Trump just did with Canada. Canada supposedly subsidizes some of the lumber, okay? So Trump has now put a tariff on to battle that so that, quote unquote, some of our lumber is made here. But think about that. This lumber was coming into the United States, so we had builders building this lumber. Now this lumber is not coming in because of the tariff, and it makes more sense to buy it here. So some of the people that were assembling lumber into houses, now we're working on cutting down trees. We're saying it's a technical way the whole thing, labor market moves, but we'll just simplify it. And so basically there are fewer people assembling houses, and they have to spend their time cutting down the trees, turning the raw wood into lumber that can be used for construction. So we've got less here, and we've got a guy spending time where we could have the Canadians doing this and more people building houses. It's silly. It's ridiculous. But basically, that's what's going on here with Trump. He completely misunderstands trade. He doesn't understand how trade is an advantage to us, and putting up any kind of barriers against trade, whether somebody's putting up a subsidy or whatever the case might be, makes no sense. Let them subsidize it. I mean, it's terrible. The people in in those countries in China and Canada should wake up and stop it. But that's not, to us, it's an advantage. Same thing with the tariff. If some other country puts a high tariff on U.S. goods, all that means is the manufacturers here in the United States will focus on making more products for us. That's the way the world works. That's how supply and demand works. That's how competition works. There's absolutely no reason ever to go against free trade. The borders should be open as far as trade is concerned and let the products flow. Absolutely silly to stop that. It just limits our choices, opportunities, and shrinks the economy. So that's my view on that. And until I see Donald Trump washing windows at Trump Tower, I will stick to that view. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel so you'll get a notice every time there's a new video out. If you like the video, hit like, tweet this out, blog it. If you want to contact me, rw@epjmail.com. Send me questions, thoughts, ideas, anything you want to hear. To reach this YouTube, if you're out and talking to lots of people about this, as you should be about the videos, the best way they can get to it is just put sunday.cloud in their browser. My main website is economicpolicyjournal.com. All you have to do is put epj.cloud in the browser and it'll get you there. And of course, there's mugs, t-shirts, and hoodies at cafepress.com/EPJ. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.